The inner lining of the esophagus provides an excellent example of a thick, stratified squamous epithelium. Squamous means scale in Latin. There are many cell layers between where the basement membrane would be and the lumen. The deeper cells are not squamous at all. In fact, the basal cells, those touching the basement membrane, are actually almost columnar, and those above them pass through a zone of being polygonal or cuboidal cells before reaching layers of squamous cells towards the surface. Stratified epithelia are characterized by their most specialized cells, and those are the cells at the surface. The basal cells are stem cells or progenitor cells, capable of undergoing mitosis but with no other function. Stratified squamous epithelia can develop a specialization on their surface cells, called keratin, to make them more resistant to stresses. Keratinized stratified squamous epithelium covers the entire outer surface of the body as the epidermis of skin to prevent desiccation and to be protective. I'll explain more about this in my lecture on the integumentary system or skin. In the oral cavity, areas of the tongue, palate, and the gingiva, which receive continual abrasion, become keratinized. In some places, the keratin layer may be very thick. Other places are protected by only a thin layer of keratinized cells. In this image of the skin epidermis, the layer of keratin is easy to see. It stains dark red. This section was stained with hematoxylin and eosin. The eosin dye stains mainly the proteins of cells. Two factors determine how much dye a particular cell will take up. One is the amount of protein in it, and the other is the solubility of the protein. Unless precautions are taken, a lot of the protein can leak out of the cells when tissues are fixed and stained. The proteins in keratin happen to be highly insoluble, and so it's almost always easy to tell whether a stratified squamous epithelium is keratinized or not. To form keratin, the upper layers of cells progressively dispose of all their organelles, fill up with fibrous proteins, and become extremely flattened. The cells at the top are so tightly bound to the ones above and below them that the boundaries are invisible. New cells are continually added to the bottom of the layer of keratin, and packets of keratinized cells continually flake off the surface. Think of dandruff. The basal layers of cells of keratinized stratified squamous epithelium look similar to their counterparts in unkeratinized stratified squamous epithelium. Only the upper layers are distinctive. Look at this epithelium for a moment, because I then want to go back to the previous image of the esophagus for comparison again with non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. So here we have this image again. One difference, in addition to the presence or absence of a visible layer of keratin, is that the cells on the surface of unkeratinized epithelia have nuclei. This is a very useful practical criterion to use. Another general characteristic is that unkeratinized stratified squamous epithelia usually have more layers of living cells than corresponding keratinized epithelia. And one final very important point: only stratified squamous epithelia can become keratinized. There's no such thing as keratinized simple, cuboidal or columnar epithelium, or keratinized stratified cuboidal or stratified columnar epithelium.